Hello, everybody. We are happy to be with you on this very, very interesting session and very interesting panel. So we're gonna share some slides with you, and I'd like to welcome our participant today. But before starting this very interesting panel discussion, I'd like to come to a very important point to us: ecosystems, innovation ecosystems. Innovation ecosystem are really key. They are what make innovation happens. And this is something that we have all learned from experience. And it's also something that we have deeply discussed with Geoffrey Moore. I'm sure you know Geoffrey Moore, a very recognized author of Crossing the Chasm and, all speaking about the challenge of the Valley of Death, for example. So how to bring technology to market, how to find the right resources to go to the market, and how to bring innovation to the right place on the market and to be successful. And this challenge of innovation ecosystem is exactly why we are here today. What all about the EDIH strategy and the European EDIH strategy highly supported by the European Commission. So if we look at this, why we are here today at this introduction, the objective of this session is to speak about developing a community where digital innovation meets investors. What we want today to do today with you is to discuss the need for strong innovation ecosystems to cross the chasm and to link the European EDIH ecosystems with the VC's European hubs. And to do that, what we would like to do today is to tell you a story. Actually, to drive you through a journey. And this journey is a story of a very promising company, Photonics, on the path to become a unicorn, a European champion. And we would like really to illustrate how, at an ecosystem level, at European level, can help company to grow. So I'm very pleased to introduce you our panelists and the different characters of this very special journey and special story. So I'm pleased to introduce you James Regan, the CEO of Photonics. Hello, James.
Hello there. Good afternoon.
How are you? Good?
Very good. Very happy to be here and talking with you.
Very nice. I would like also to introduce you Hervé Floch. Hervé is the CEO of the cluster Alpha EDIH, the French cluster in microwave and photonics, located in the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region in France, member of the dynamic EDIH candidate as well. Hello, Hervé.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you. Good afternoon.
I'd like to introduce you also Frank Murray. Frank is the president of Normandy Participation. Actually, Frank is a lot of different profile. He's an entrepreneur. He is also with the CEO of e-dih, a very also successful company, active also in deep tech. He is now part of Murata through a very big corporate. And you're also the president of Normandy Participation, an investment fund fully dedicated to regional funding, but also with activity at European level. So you will explain also your activity and how you have bring also your entrepreneurial experience in this new activity at this fund level. Hello, Frank.
Yeah, hello everyone, and nice to meet you this afternoon.
Very nice. And I'd like to introduce you also Andreas Limberis from the EIC Accelerator. Hello, Andreas.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me. I can hear you very well anyway.
Perfect. Yes. We hear you very well.
I'm glad to be here with you.
So we will also address specifically the case of the action undertaken by the European Commission through the EIC Accelerator and how such initiatives will also support deep tech companies and the growth new champions in Europe. And finally, we have also the great pleasure to have with us Marcula, the Vice President of the European Committee of the Regions. Hello, Marco.
Hello. Hi. Good to be with you today.
So thank you very much also for joining us. You have kindly accepted to share your insight following the session by making the conclusion remark. and you are representing the regions because, as we said, we are here to discuss about ecosystems, how we can grow ecosystems for innovation, how to link with private investment. And this is also something that can be undertaken at regional level, but acting pan-European. So your conclusion will be very important to us. So I promised a story. And before that, I like you also, you now know about it, but you have the chat box if you have any technical questions. You have also the Q&A part when you can ask all your questions to our speakers. And we have also 2 questions for you, so don't hesitate to answer at the end of the session. And also, if you have questions, don't hesitate. I have my colleague Olivia Regan for Blue Morpho in charge of European ecosystems at Blue Morpho. She's with us, so don't hesitate also to ask all your questions. And now let's start the story. So as we said, the best way to discuss how to grow new champions, why do we want to grow new champions? Because ecosystems need champions. When you have good champions, all the company benefit from it. The startups, the large corporation, the SMEs, the investors, and the more champion, the more investment, the more private investment. So the challenge for us is really to be able to grow a promising company in Europe. And we have the great pleasure, as I said, to have FX Photonics. And so, James, you kindly accepted to join and to explain your story. So it will be very interesting if you could share with us how you have developed your company. And we really like your case because you are a deep tech company. You are addressing one of the biggest challenge to raise capital when you're deep tech because you need a lot of capital. And what you're doing is quite challenging from a technical point of view, but you are successful. So please share with us how you have started your business and what has been the first good experience that supported your growth.
Okay, thank you very much. So yes, indeed, I'm CEO of Effect Photonics. So we are a spin-out from the Technical University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands. So TU Eindhoven has very successful over quite some time over getting a lot of European funding, FP7, and then on into Horizon 2020, and also national government money to research and develop a technology of photonic integration. So this is a technology to put an entire optical system onto a single chip, such as the one you see on my fingertip in the pictures. So the university had kind of received a lot of research money to develop this technology. A couple of brilliant young students wanted to go out and commercialize this. So 10 years ago they registered the company, and fairly soon after that I was introduced by a third party, and I came as the guy with the long career in the industry of industrialization and commercialization. So it was a great fit. And we started to think, okay, with this technology, what would we want to do? What problems did we want to solve? And after quite a long time, the conclusion we came to was we saw that the internet was going to be super critical in the future. And we wanted to use this technology to take the kind of powerful optical communications solutions that were there in the kind of core of the network and really push them out to the edges, right, to where people are, where people like us, sitting at home, connecting into the internet, and bring bandwidth to the people using this kind of technology. And you could say, well, wow, that was very prescient in terms of where we all find ourselves today. So we could see that coming. We set out to raise some money. We're talking about ecosystems, so we were very fortunate by being a spin-out from the university. The university had a good incubation system, and we got some startup loans, which we took on ourselves to get going. And with that, we were able to make a little bit of progress. And we also had, again, talking about, we had a lot of interest from the Brabant investment agency there in South Holland to invest, but they always co-invest, so they needed that defined thing, which is the kind of the deep lead investor. And I can tell that those are the ones that are really, really hard to find. And this was in 2013, 2014, when very deep tech deals were being done for early stage companies. I mean, it's just, or indeed at all in deep tech. So we were fortunate to be able to get to the Invest in Photonics event in Bordeaux in 2014, and there we pitched, and we actually won a prize and even a check. I'll show it here. Here it is for €5,000. Woo! And this doubled the money we had in the bank at the time, which was super exciting for those of us that were relying on this for our income. But most importantly, we also were able to meet with Dr. Christian Reitberger of B2V, who was personally a deep tech photonics investor. He has done sort of 30 investments in deep tech, semiconductors, photonics, and really with the lead in place, we were able to bring the kind of consortium together to get the company off the ground and to close our Series A, led by B2V, with a second investor from the regional agency, and a number of individuals who are keen to support us, including incidentally the president of the Invest in Photonics event, who also invested personally in us. So that was really what I wanted to say in terms of the challenges of getting going.
Yeah, so it was really the beginning of the company. We will come back also then to where you are right now, because I know you are quite successful, and we are really happy to witness your evolution as a member of the editorial committee of Info Venture Summit, which was previously Invest in Photonics, and now it's Info Venture Summit. And it's very interesting what you mentioned, because you show already that coming from the Netherlands, you had benefit from the Info Venture Summit, which is organized by French regions, Nouvelle-Aquitaine. And we are very pleased to have with us Hervé Floch, so the CEO of Alpha RLH. So Hervé, why investing so much in Info Venture Summit? Why developing this kind of international biennale, deep tech biennale for private investors? We know Info, quite well-known events. Why do you, as participants in Nouvelle-Aquitaine regions, invest in such activity, and do you encourage other regions to drive such kind of actions?
Thank you, Geraldine, and James. Always a pleasure to see you, and so I will probably know more in a few minutes about the development of FX Photonics. So first of all, in Nouvelle-Aquitaine, which is the southwest of France, the story started in, that was, as far as I remember, in the 1995 with the major political decision. It was decided to construct one of the two largest laser facility ever built in the world. So the name is Laser Megajoule. And from that decision, we started to construct, let's say, an ecosystem to accompany that huge and very ambitious project. So photonics was definitely ramped up at that time in Nouvelle-Aquitaine. Just to remind you that in Nouvelle-Aquitaine we had one Nobel Prize, Alfred Kastler, in the past. So the ecosystem that developed starting from this major decision became a cluster, a competitiveness cluster in 2005. So our main mission is to encourage innovative collaboration, innovative collaborative projects, stimulate, in particular, economic development of SMEs. So it's good to have ideas. It's good to have innovative project and to transform that in, product to sell. But when you think about it, you always come back to the same question. How am I going to fund this innovation? How am I going to fund the growth of my company? So we came rapidly to the conclusion with the region to create an event allowing private investors to come on the scene and facilitates SMEs, innovative SMEs from Europe in priority to present the project and hopefully to get funding, mainly through VCs, as investors. So Effect Photonics was one of the company that applied to these invest in photonics, at that time. So congrats again, James. And with time, we realized that most of the innovative products that come on the market are, a sort of combination of key enabling technology and deep tech. So we decided to move from invest in photonics being one of the deep tech, to Info Venture Summit, covering the whole spectrum of deep tech. So in 2020, we had the 7th edition. It occurred once every 2 years, and despite this terrible COVID-19 crisis, we were able to have, on a total remote mode, of course, up to 350 connection and attendees, coming from, as far as I remember, 30% from France and 40% Europe, UK, and blah, blah, blah. A lot of other member states. So Info Venture Summit, after the 7th edition, it represents a grand total of 522 million euro of fundraising need, and 50% of this amount was at the end of the day, raised by the companies. So this event is really known, and that's a very important rendezvous for investor worldwide. We have investors coming from US, from Asia, especially for the hardware, when we're talking about this. And these investors are really looking to companies with innovation, representing serious bankable challenges. Okay, so this event is really important, is key at the European level, and as far as I remember, most, if not all, of the 7th session have always invited one representative from the European Commission. So this rendezvous is really important, and for the people that are listening to us today, I will definitely invite them to, get more information on this, and I will be pleased to see more and more European SMEs in 2022, which will be the 8th session of this European event. So funding is really important for innovation, definitely.
And we need to do that at European level. So it started locally, it has expanded pan-European, even internationally. And what is, I can say it, what is very interesting is that the investors are coming back every 2 years, and they're also asking, when is it Info Venture Summit? Because we want to be there. So congratulations for this great initiative that bring value for all European companies. So this is the first example of generating value at European level systems, providing value to all companies in Europe. Let's go back to the topic and the story of Effect Photonics. So we have seen the impact of Info for you, James. Now you are not a small company, you have hired a lot of people. Can you tell us a bit more where you are right now? And because we know each other, and because we are all part of the same family, it would be good also that you share, the things that are behind the scene. What is really the challenge? Because we know you are a successful company, but it's good also to address what are the pain points. What are the challenges that you are daily facing? Hervé was mentioning that fundraising is a challenge, right? So it's very interesting to know also from your experience if it's something that you have faced at the beginning, and I guess this is something that companies are facing all along their growth. We know that by experience at Blue Morpho, but it's better you explain it yourself.
Thank you again, Geraldine. So, yeah, I think we going back a few years to 2015, we closed the Series A. But deep tech is very hard, very difficult, and it takes a lot of money to make it work. So we are hard at work, taking this kind of university level technology and really working to industrialize it. And that frankly took a lot of heavy lifting. We had great support for Horizon 2020 projects. We were able to win an SME instrument and get the seal of excellence. Got some Dutch national government support in different ways. But again, we get to the point where it needs to step into some bigger money. So there we were successful. We went out for a Series B and were able to bring in the Netherlands' top deep tech investor, which is Innovation Industries, who led our Series B round, along with the Series A investors who also joined. And that's really allowed us to really bring our technology to the market. So we now have been able to develop optical transceivers for 5G networks, which is really very exciting thing that's happening in the world, and for both 5G and indeed other networks are using our technology. So as we speak, there are field trials around the world. A lot of well-known national operators are running our devices that came out of the university in the ground. And again, super exciting. We've had from the very beginning a lot of interest from really kind of big names, and typically what they would say to us is, if you can really do this, it's going to be amazing, but can you really do this, because this is really hard? And indeed they were right. It's taken us a long time. We're finally there. We finally got the product out now, and are really just beginning now to turn on revenue. And that story has I think made it very difficult to fit into some of the classic investment models. So the ideal thing for an investor is, you get a bit of money, you get a bit of revenue, you can see that revenue, so then you put a bit more money in, you get bigger revenue, and that if you're doing software, then it typically follows that kind of model. But really, with a kind of a highly differentiated deep tech solution like this, it's money, no revenue until you get there, and then the revenue goes really, really fast. And so that how do you invest for that? Because I have to invest for the capacity to be really big, but I have to invest that money pre-revenue, and that makes it very difficult to fit into some of the investment pots that we find in the European Commission's processes right now. So, we're kind of too early for the European Investment Bank because we haven't got the kind of revenue track record they're looking for. But a lot of discussion. Well, you've got investors, so maybe you're bankable, so you don't need other pots. So this has been a topic of discussion that I've been having offline with Andreas as to whether we really qualified for EIC Accelerator or not. It's a challenge, but we're getting there. The technology is exciting, and it's out now.
Yeah. So the challenge, if I rephrase a bit what you're saying, the challenge is not only to develop the technology, to grow the team, but we're at the pre-commercialization phase. Not yet revenues, but a lot of cash is needed to invest in the production, in the commercialization phase. You have proven the market value because you have already cash investors supporting you, but you are in the growing phase, and also in the growing phase, this is a challenge. And it's totally true. It's totally the case of deep tech company, hardware company. This is something that we know for years, actually. When we started Blue Morpho, it was after an European project. We identified this challenge. That's why we are working at the ecosystem level to accelerate the access to market and to investment. The good news, I think, in Europe, because we always compare Europe and US, saying that US, we have a lot of investors able to put a lot of money on the table when it's very risky. But the good news, and you mentioned it, we have this EIC accelerator, which is very interesting also to take the risk. So it will be very interesting indeed if Andreas Limberis, you can explain us a bit more what are the ambitions of the EIC. You're running a pilot right now with sharing companies, taking this risk, and it's very interesting to understand what are your motivation and how you do that, because I think it's quite unique as well.
Yes, well, this is something new, of course. I fully agree with you. So in the last 2 years, I would say since 2018, the Commission decided through the EIC fund, so the European Innovation Council fund, to provide, in addition to the grant, to the grant funding, to a company, to an SME, so this is specifically addressed to SMEs, to provide from 0.5 million to 15 million euros to breakthrough innovation companies selected for the EIC Accelerator blended finance support. So the company would receive grant and equity. And so this EIC fund became now an official entity, investing direct money to the companies, to the SMEs. And on the 6th of January, it was an historic day, I would say, for this program, because it was announced that the first decision was taken on the EIC fund to directly invest in 42 startups and SMEs.
I think we're losing a bit, Andreas.
Needs more Effect Photonics modules.
Yeah, exactly. Good example. We need you. So we are losing a bit I don't know. I don't know if it's still connected. So definitely time for advertising on Effect Photonics, James.
Yeah, well, indeed. So it's very interesting. We've always had plenty of customer traction, plenty of customer pull, and the challenge is to make it work and to have the money to do that. So
EC have to invest for sure. So, but I think I'm just going to go back to what Andreas was mentioning. So I think the EIC Accelerator has received like 4,000 applications
There is a total of 35
to support those companies where it's a challenge. And I don't know if he's back with us. And as Andreas mentioned, you have, so yes, Andreas, you're back with us. So you mentioned 4,000 application in our previous discussion. You are supporting now 42 companies, right? So quite impressive figures here.
Yes, exactly. So there is a process. So there is a due diligence process after the evaluation of the application, through the evaluation process of thousands of applications. But in the next framework program, this selection will be a little bit improved in terms of submission. So there will be an open submission for a very short idea submission. And then after the idea, the full proposal will be submitted, and then there will be two level of evaluation, a remote and an interview evaluation. But we will improve through this process the success of the whole submission into this program, which is so far quite low, I would say. So this is for the success part of the submission in the EIC Accelerator program that will be improved in the next program. But just to say that, yes, we have received in the last 2 years, we have received many thousands of proposals for sure, but we funded more than 781 companies for an amount of 2.15 billion euros. And 700 out of these 2.15 billion were only equity. And so I think it's a program that will give a lot of opportunities for SME startups and also in some cases mid-caps companies to get funding for TRL 9, this is for the equity, and from TRL 5 to 8, this is for the grant funding.
Okay, very interesting, and it's quite new, so it's really good also to see that new instruments are implemented at European level to address the challenge of the companies to grow, and you mentioned at different phases of their maturity. Thank you very much, Andreas, on this point. But now, I would like to come back to the regions and to this question of ecosystems, local ecosystems. And we have the great pleasure to have with us Frank Murray. Hello, Frank, again. You are the president of Normandy Participation, and your activity are quite interesting as well. And it could be very interesting if you could introduce us what you're doing, why you're doing this kind of new type of investment. And then we'll be happy also to discuss with all of you how this kind of initiative could be implemented through the EDIH strategy of the European Commission and the European EDIH. Because that's really the question of today, how this EDIH strategy, European EDIH strategy, can better support access to private investment for European startups and SMEs. But let's start with Frank with a presentation to get us inspired.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Geraldine. So, as indicated in the introduction, I'm an entrepreneur and I have been spending all my career in science and technology. My last experience was start a company named e-dih, which was a deep tech startup that we launched in 2009. We went through several cycles of fundraising with European-based VCs, in France and Netherlands mainly, so that was a successful journey for the company. Then after 7 years, we have been acquired by a giant Japanese company in the world of components named Murata, which brought a nice multiple to the investors. It was a little bit above 5 for them, which showed to some of our investors that the deep tech startup can also generate nice deals. And I hope that this has contributed also in some teams of investment funds that deep tech was something worth investing at. So at the same time, as a regional citizen in my region in Normandy, I was participating to the definition of the economic development strategy for the region, because in France the region have got that competence of leading economic development locally, and I think my experience of CEO of a startup and having made the journey with the development and exit and everything, even though I'm still working for the acquirer. But based on that experience and also the local landscape, we realized that the local support, especially in equity or fundraising, was sometimes missing, and sometimes either delaying the start of businesses or for some of the entrepreneurs who were not well introduced in the VC world, it was not so easy. So we made a few market studies, and after having worked this out, we came to the conclusion that a regional agency for economic development coupled with a regional fund could make sense. And that's how this decision was made to start this fund. And it was made with the the recently elected council at the end of 2016. So the region decided to create a tool that acts as a private investor, but it's publicly funded. So it's a private company, an SAS in France, but 100% of the funds are coming from the region. The region is the only shareholder of that fund, which gives some little bit of different flavor to that fund compared to usual VCs.
So just does it mean that you are taking different criteria to assess a company? What difference does it make?
Yeah, so let me first just explain how it works, and then we'll come back to your question. One of the things and one of the risks that several of us, including myself, were seeing at creating a publicly led fund was mix between politics and economics. Mm-hmm. So one of the conditions and strong conditions that I made and a few other people made to become part of this adventure, not as an investor but as a player, was to make sure that there were no elected people in the government board of that fund, and that's something we did. So this fund has received money or has got money from the region. Part of it is coming from Europe through the redeployment funds, by the way. But this fund is managed by entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, and one of the goals is to contribute to the local economy. There is no specific sector or vertical into which the fund is investing, but on activities that generate economic return. So it can be employment, it can be revenues, it can be a lot of things in the region. That's the main goal. So in that sense, there is no specific calendar for exit. There is no specific pressure on a cycle. There is no fiscal impact. Nothing. It's really a tool, but to be used by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. One of the things that is important to know also is it was mentioned by the CEO of Effect Photonics that with the Brabant equivalent that we are publicly funded, so we need to co-invest with 100% private investors, which is also a very interesting element to make sure that we stay in the market value, that we stay in the normal practices and conditions of equity funding. But the spirit of the fund and the team is a little different from the one of a 100% private investor. So if we look at what has been done so far, after 4 years of existence, we invested into 40 companies, an amount of around 35 million euros. The fund is has, I would say, funding for 100 million, so there is no limitation with that. It's more the number of projects that limit the investment. And among these 40 companies, I would say 50 are early stage companies, startups, tech startups, health tech startups, and agro-food tech startups, which is one of the things that we see also in our region. So
linked to the specialization of the region as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So this is in a nutshell.
And what is just to conclude a bit on this presentation? Why an investment fund? Why not grants? Why investment fund?
That's a good question. So the region, like other entities, is giving grants to some companies, but the amount is limited or the purpose is limited. So it can be R&D grants or specific grants, but not money that can be used to develop the growth of the company, to hire salespeople abroad, or to hire more people to industrialize, or so it's really a complementary tool to the grants.
Okay.
It's not replacing, it's not preventing from using them, but it's really complementary.
Absolutely. So the goal is really to support the growth, and to get the growth, you need more equity. That's why you are investing in this grant. Thank you for that. And the question behind is also, you're doing that in Normandy regions in France, but you're also looking for collaboration in different with different other funds at European level, also to strengthen the relationship, but also for the benefits of the company you are investing in, right?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned, by nature, our fund has to co-invest with private investors. So the first idea of people is to look for French VCs or even some VCs located in nearby the region, like in the west of France. But having been the CEO of a company that has developed itself far away from its place of operation, I am pushing also both the team of Normandy Participation as well as our companies to look for investors that can be outside the country, who we had some foreign investors in our company, and that helped us very much to develop our network of sales of related people in the rest of the world.
So it's contribute basically to the single European markets that we need also to grow European champions, because we need to make sure that it's feasible to go in one country and the other without limitations and barriers due to regulations or language, etc. And this case is very interesting indeed, because we have done this analysis with the European Investment Fund, showcasing that there is only like 30% of cross-border investment. So it's very interesting to see how this EDIH strategy and European Digital Innovation Hubs could contribute to this kind of cross-border investment, co-investment to support European champions. Before we go to the questions, I'd like to give the floor to Marcula, representing the regions. Marco, do you have already some analysis to share with us and some kind of key insights?
Yes, of course. Let me take a few of the key insights, key kind of messages that I clearly heard coming from the discussion. Thank you, Geraldine. So you have done an excellent moderation work on this, but as well the case is extremely interesting. So we got just a couple of the ideas from those, but let me first start that as actually linked to your original question, or the key words are innovation and innovation ecosystem. So from that, I think these statements from our cases were clearly showing on that universities and research centers, they definitely play a key role as centers for science, technology, research and innovation. But however, the key for regional or the kind of best laboratories for breakthrough innovations, they are not anymore the laboratories. They're one part of the university, but they are the whole ecosystem. In most of the cases, there needs to be a strong university or several universities, but a lot of, let's say, place-based local activities, new startup entrepreneurship, but as well some, let's say, experienced senior people who operate either in big companies, who have the experience on these innovation processes, who are part of that community. So it's really the creating this community, and I think the community is one of the kind of intelligent community, how we create that and how that operates as an innovation ecosystem, place-based much, and that is bringing it close to the regional development, regional decision making, and that needs, as we actually very nicely just heard from Frank on your experiences. So how and what in the regional politics, regional policymakers, we can open up our minds more. We even should say that we should have in our heart or in our DNA, even the understanding what is innovation. So as a policymakers, political decision makers, so we need to go through our own lessons to learn about the innovation. And I'm happy I had the chance 20 years ago when I was a member of parliament in Finland. So we there created a permanent committee for the future. So in inventing the future and debating with experts, and so I think that brought, and that kind of activity is needed nowadays. Take the entrepreneurs, business directors, innovators, research experts to talk more with the politicians and learn these new things. So these innovation ecosystems, they operate like test beds for rapid prototyping and then scaling up. And on that scaling up, we need these new instruments by European Innovation Council, the accelerator, with financing. And I think that this is really great, so that we stress more and more. This is a Europe with open borders, so we build on our joint values, and much on that is really creating or speeding up this transformation, accelerating to change. And I've quite often used the word, so that actually when we should everywhere take the best knowledge and best science society experiences in use. So we can call this kind of dance of research and innovation and high tech with practice. So it's taking you to the dance with the others and going much deeper on that. So and then it can, and nowadays, especially for the next 10 years, it's immediately important. So when we talk about green and digital, it's not green and separately it's digital, but we need to integrate them. And on that, see, these our cases today show clearly so that we need to work as well, political decision makers and new high-tech industries, entrepreneurs, we need to work hand in hand. And that's on this, so this creating this European network of digital innovation hubs, that is crucial. And that's we stressed, I was the time when we started to dream about these digital innovation hubs. I was 5 years ago, I was the president of the committee of the region, and we stressed that heavily with the commission, so that they all need to be European by nature.
Yeah.
And that's the process where we are having at the moment. So these are a few of the kind of activities. So public sector needs to create the favorable conditions, and then we need to encourage people coming from universities, business life to work together to create the new. And that there we need these investors, venture capital, and so on.
So the question, thank you very much, Marco. But we have some questions to answer as well, and your point of view will be very interesting. So we mentioned this European EDIH, when we have a community of research organizations, startup, SMEs, large corporation. The question we have is, who are the clients of the European EDIH? Are the VCs or are the startups? And how can the EDIH contribute to attract the private investors? So I don't know if, Marco, you have a point of view on that. Maybe also, Frank,
if just a key point, so that the role of the Digital Innovation Hub, so it needs to be accelerating this change. So change is the key, the transformation, both in the economic life, but as well in the minds of the young researchers, or let's say older researchers. We are all lifelong learners. And on that, so these digital innovation hubs, they are places which bring together the key actors. They are not institute with the walls around them, but they are open, kind of accelerators of open innovation.
So how to attract, if we are an European Digital Innovation Hub, how to attract private investors? I suggest that you attract private investors if you generate value and you are growing promising company to invest in. Frank, do you want to share a point of view on that, or what is your point of view? Because as a president of Novandi Participation, you are an investor.
Yeah, you're right. That's, I mean, accelerators and innovation hubs and everything is for me part of the toolbox that we need to have in Europe, in the regions. Some projects will come from these digital innovation hubs. Some projects will not come from there as well. Nevertheless, these hubs should be used to facilitate the life of the projects or the people who are running a project, bringing investors into the scene. And so by saying that, I'm saying obvious things, but generally speaking, when you visit some accelerators or hubs, it's always difficult to find really the key differentiating element and the key accelerating elements of it. And fundraising and capital is, for me, one of the most important, which sometimes is not developed enough because, naturally speaking, in Europe and especially in France and some Latin countries, the people who are having a project, they don't want to open their capital too quickly, but this is what is slowing down a lot of projects to me. So bringing investors into hubs and accelerators is, for me, one of the key important things. Yeah.
It's also a part of the education of the companies.
Yeah.
We have also another very interesting question. We are speaking a lot about startups, but you know the EDIH are not limited to startups, but also SMEs. And so there is two things. We mentioned the scale-up with the case of Effect Photonics, but we have also mature SMEs. So they are recurrent revenues. They're not looking for investors. But here it could be also quite interesting to consider specific loans to support the digitization of these SMEs. This is also part of the activity you have launched, right, in Normandy Participation,
Yep.
to finance by loans, not only equity, correct?
You're right. So because of the, I would say, the regional character of the tool that we have created, we did not specialize ourselves into one kind of companies, but really on the regional nature of the companies. And you're right, there are many very healthy and nice companies that do not need to raise capital, but we may need to raise money sometimes for a big project or for reorganization, a positive one, I would say. So that's why we created some sub-tools, I would say, which are more loan-based, but not as a bank loan, because the bank will do their job of banking, but as a quasi-equity loan for mature companies, because giving a loan to a company, you need to know if it will be able to reimburse it, which is obvious as an argument, but sometimes there are a lot of startup people who forget that the reason why the banks are not financing startups with loans is that the risk of non-reimbursement is so high that they cannot get any return. Yeah. So that's why we developed those tools for this specific need of mid-sized company, profitable and having needs for temporary funding.
And actually, that's really the questions related to this private investment, either by equity or by loans. It has to be something driven by the EDIH or the EDIH, basically, or should they collaborate with people handling this question of financing for the benefit of the company? We have very interesting also in the question on the answer of the participant today, not only our speakers, but also the audience. So, Olivia, I guess we can ask the questions to our participants today.
Yes, Geraldine, we have a question for you. Hello, everybody. We have a question for you concerning this question of these challenges of reaching private investment. Do you consider that reinforcing the access to private investment would be better addressed at the EDIH level or at the EDIH network level? So this is a question that we have for you in the poll section. So if you can give us your point of view on this, it will be really helpful for the follow-up of those discussions. Thank you.
Because what we have learned also through these innovation ecosystems is to say that not everybody has to do everything, but we need to collaborate with, I would say, best-in-class players and find a way to collaborate all together. And that's also what we've learned by analyzing these innovation ecosystems and how to make value for all the players, basically. So I think we are just going to wait for the feedback of participants, of course, giving them a bit of time. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank you all for your active participation and for this very good example of Effect Photonics. So, James, it has been a pleasure to listen to your story, and we wish you all the great success for your company. And in 5 to 10 years, we will be very happy to say, yes, we have shared a panel discussion with James Regan.
Yes, thank you. It's a very exciting time.
Thank you, James. And thank you very much, Marco, for accepting to share the time of this panel with us, to share your experience and to represent also the regions. It's always good, to have also the policymaker quite engaged into generating value at ecosystem level. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hervé, as well, for your presentation of Info Venture Summit and for these European actions you are driving from French regions, but with quite impact at European level. So we have noticed your invitation to come sharing a glass of wine in Bordeaux in 2 years. So
Definitely, you're all welcome, and I would be pleased to have you in the Info 2022 event. Yes, definitely.
Okay,
Great.
let's do that.
Absolutely.
And finally, for the two speakers, Andreas, again, thank you for the presentation of IEC Accelerator. Definitely a great tool. We would like to better work with you to see how we can link also that with the EDIH strategy. And definitely this is a part of the instrument to support SMEs and startups. So
There are
thank you again.
many things going on at this moment. We need to connect them all as soon as possible.
Good. And Frank, thank you for a presentation of Normandy participation. It's quite innovative in terms of regional actions, acting as private investment. I'm convinced that our people today participating and listening to this panel will come to you with a lot of questions and to see also how they could collaborate with you through co-investment. And as you know, within this European ecosystems, we are in contact with a lot of corporate will be also very interested in co-investing in very promising companies.
Thank you.
So we sincerely hope this panel discussion was interesting to you. We sincerely hope also that it will bring new value at the ecosystems level, leveraging a new collaboration and new investments and sharing best practices. So don't hesitate to stay connected, to ask your questions to us as well. We will be happy to connect with our speakers. And of course, tomorrow we have a full day following this very interesting conference. So we are looking forward to meet you all again tomorrow.
Thank you very much for the great organization and all the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Thank you to all of you. And I guess we'll have other opportunity to meet again and discuss this, because I can see from the answers of our participants that there are still a lot of questions on this. So we will follow up on this discussion.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.